There's a beautiful pasuk in this week's parsha, Parshas Acharei Mos Kedoshim. The Torah tells us, do not take revenge, do not bear a grudge against your people. Love your fellow like you love yourself, I am Hashem. This incredible mitzvah to love our fellow like I love ourselves, such an important mitzvah. What exactly does it mean? And not only that, what does it mean not to take revenge? And what's the difference between not bearing a grudge? So the commentaries explain that not taking revenge basically means the following. Right now, unfortunately, I think a lot of us probably have, a lot of like dandelions out in our backyards. I happen to have this really nice thing. It's like a little spear for dandelions. You dig it under the dandelion root, and then you get rid of that dandelion. So let's just say that my friend a few houses down came over to my house and asked me to borrow it. And I was nervous to lend it to him, and I said, no, I'm sorry, you can't use it. And then I go to him, because I need to mow my lawn, in a week or two. And I asked him to borrow his lawnmower. And if he would neglect lending me his lawnmower, he has violated this, taking revenge. Because I didn't do something for him, he in turn didn't do something for me. That's called revenge. You're not allowed to do it. Then the Torah tells us you're not allowed to bear a grudge. What does that mean? So that would mean that when I go and ask my neighbor to borrow his lawnmower, he says, yeah, sure, take it. You know why? Because I'm not like you. I share, and you don't. So that's not okay either. That's called bearing a grudge. You can't do that either. But then I want to analyze and spend the rest of the time now analyzing the next part of the pasuk. Love your fellow like you love yourself. This idea, which is so fundamental, Rabbi Akiva discusses this. It's the Zeklal Gadol b'Torah. Right? This is the greatest principle in the Torah. It's such a great principle in the Torah. Hillel famously tells a prospective convert, you want to convert to Judaism? Here's what you got to do. What you don't want done to yourself, don't do that to others. Everything else is just commentary. Go learn. That's what Hillel told the prospective convert. What does that mean? How do you love? It's so important, but we have to know how to do it. How do you love your fellow like you love yourself? What if your fellow is not so lovable? How can the Torah mandate that we do something that you either like someone or you don't? There's a lot to discuss on this, and I wanted to just look at the approach of the Ramban, Nachmanides, as well as the Rambam. And I'll share it with you right now, again, because on one level, it's very difficult to love someone like you literally love yourself. And the Ramban actually tells us that, honestly, it's just almost like a figure of speech. He says that this idea that you have to love your neighbor like you love yourself is really just a figure of speech. It can't be taken literally, since a man's heart cannot be expected to love his neighbor as he loves his own self. Interestingly, the Ramban continues and describes how to do this, and he says that the mitzvah that we're referring to essentially is just like you love yourself and you want benefits and good things for yourself, so you should also want good things and benefits for other people. Don't take the approach, and he elaborates on this elsewhere, but essentially the idea is that, just because you have something, you shouldn't want another person not to have that also, so that you could have it and he doesn't. It's kind of like sometimes children, if they got an ice cream bar from mommy or daddy, they don't necessarily want their sibling to have it. So that's not really how to love a fellow like you love yourself. If you want that ice cream bar, you should root for them to have it also. If you have success and wealth and happiness, root for your neighbor to have that also. That might be what it means, according to the Ramban, to love your fellow like you love yourself. And finally, we have the Rambam's understanding. And what does the Rambam say about this? So he says, very interestingly, I just thought it was a very cool way to phrase it. The Rambam writes in his Hilchos Avel, Perak Yud Daled Aleph, he says that what it means, Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, he says, Kol advarim shata rotza shiyasu osam l'cha, acherim asata osan l'achecha b'torah v'mitzvos. Whatever you would want other people to do for you, you should do for your brother or your sister in Torah and mitzvos. So the idea is that in general, you're thinking of something. You're like, wow, you know what? I'm really thirsty right now. I would love it if someone would bring me a glass of water. Right? So then to go ahead and to bring someone else a glass of water, because presumably just like you appreciate that, good chance they might appreciate that also. And that, according to the Rambam, might be how to fulfill this mitzvah v'aftarech kamocha, to basically whatever you would hope others might do for you, to be proactive and do that for others as well. So really a very powerful mitzvah to think about this time of year. We're in Sphira. We're mourning the loss through the plague of 24,000 of Rabbi Akiva's students, and it would be appropriate for us all to, they perished in the plague because they didn't respect each other. They didn't treat each other correctly. So it's appropriate for all of us, God willing, right now, to work on how we treat each other, work on how we think about each other, and work on how we love each other. Have a beautiful Shabbos.